So, for introductory purposes, we've got to introduce ourselves, David. Of course we do. My name's Zach Boynton. Love the Clone Wars. Straight up a Clone Wars fan. We're on RadioClone, are we not? This is RadioClone. Welcome.
This is.
David, introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's David. I'm a major Star Wars nerd. And
Doesn't
I
have to
love
talk like
everything
that.
Star Wars. I'm actually a
There you
bit of
go.
an arsehole.
We both just we just vibe over Star Wars basically. Anyway, today's podcast, first podcast, live streaming it on Twitch, then we'll upload it to YouTube. So whichever platform you're watching on, hello, welcome. Awesome, great to see you. Ranking the Star Wars movies. This should be a fun episode just to kick it off, I reckon. We're going to be playing some games in the background, so if we get a little bit distracted, apologise, but we hope you enjoy the gameplay as well.
We will be off topic on
yeah,
this most of the time.
Do you want to start? Should we just start? Should we just go straight into it, as we do?
Yeah, I think if we start with the top three, so 12 to 10.
You mean 12 to 10? Yep, cool. And then...
Yeah,
okay, what are your 12 to 10 then? What are your 12 to 10?
Okay, so in number 12, we've got The Last Jedi, mainly because...
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
then 11th place, we've got Rise of Skywalker, and in 10th place we've got
Rise of
Phantom Menace.
Skywalker at 11. Okay, so I've put The Last Jedi as 12, so we both agreed there. I've put The Phantom Menace at 11, and then I've put the Clone Wars animated movie at 10. So...
Okay. Why is that,
pretty
though?
similar, both got the Phantom Menace and Last Jedi in there, so it's pretty good. In terms of, so should we just start with the Last Jedi? Why have we put it at 12, both of us? I don't know why.
It's just terrible story, creates so many plot holes.
Right, yeah, it really does.
Fix anything to do with Star Wars.
So
It's
this movie,
just not a good movie.
It's not. I got a 7 out of 10. The IMDb rated this movie a 7 out of 10, and I'm genuinely confused how it managed to get that high, right? Because
How did they get a 7?
because I don't know how they got 7, right? Because as a Star Wars movie, like as you said, it creates so many plot holes. It for me, it has a load of cringy jokes that just aren't funny. Like it tries to be funny and it's not. It just doesn't work for me as a Star Wars movie, and then it doesn't work for me as a normal movie either. Like I've seen a lot of fans, sequel fans, say to me they like The Last Jedi because it's just a good movie and fun to watch. And I get, okay, yeah, I guess it's a little bit fun to watch. Like the throne room scene between Kylo and Rey, that's a great scene. I'm not going to deny it, but that's the only good scene in Star Wars in the film. Because where was I going with this? Oh yeah, no. So it's because the entire movie is literally just a glorified car chase scene in a spaceship with a Jedi learning how to lift rocks, aka Rey, and then Finn and whatever the other lady who's completely irrelevant. Those two just go off on a side mission that actually fails, and they achieve nothing in the film, and it's just so boring and just trash. And I'm going to stop myself there because I'm not going to keep going on, but easily number 12. It's not even a good movie to watch. I understand
I understand the frustration. It is a steaming pile of just controversy of plot.
Yeah, it's not a good film. So I'm glad we both agreed on that. We won't waste any more time on it. Maybe in another podcast, but not this one.
We could probably make an entirely another episode regarding the failure of The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, for me, okay, here's another thing as well. I just want to quickly mention this. The Last Jedi ruins the sequels for me, in that sense. Like, the sequels has its own problems, like the other two episodes, but as a trilogy, it's ruined for me by The Last Jedi. But anyway, yeah.
Really?
Number 11, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
The sequels could had a lot of potential, but The Last Jedi hits the nail in the coffin for me. But anyway, number 11, I put The Phantom Menace. You put Rise of Skywalker, right?
Yes.
So why did you put Rise of Skywalker?
In terms of me putting it there, I I mainly reference the fact that it doesn't have a good story. It does have some okay points, mainly just to do with how the characters were written. But it doesn't.
Which is what puts
it had a lot of potential had it been directed and written well, but it wasn't.
Yeah,
and I found that. I found it resonated within the kind of the script of it, how it was acted out.
Yeah.
It just didn't resonate that it was a good Star Wars movie.
Yeah, no.
Which is why
originally I had it a lot lower than I do, because you're right, it's not just a really bad Star Wars movie in the grand scheme of things, but I think it falls victim to The Last Jedi being so bad, personally, because it's trying to tie up all the plot holes that Force Awakens created, which, you know, the first episode of a trilogy is meant to do.
Yeah.
So it's trying to tie up all of those, because The Last Jedi decided to scrap all of those and go on to its own little thing. So I think it falls victim to The Last Jedi a little bit. But fair opinion. I put The Phantom Menace at 11,
why is that?
because the only thing keeping it above Last Jedi for me is Qui-Gon Jinn and Darth Maul, who also both die in the film. So, you know,
well,
it is what it is.
Maul doesn't die,
definitely,
but you know.
Okay, yeah, technically Maul
He's
doesn't die. And
fainted death.
Honestly, Maul's death is an entirely another podcast, because Maul is actually my favourite Sith Lord. Personally, I think he's incredible. He's so cool. He's badass in Clone Wars.
No,
like,
no, that's fine.
Badass. But no, The Phantom Menace is a film. It just doesn't work. It just doesn't work for me. I'm sorry. Yeah, is what it is. So number 10. What did you say you put again?
10. I put Phantom Menace.
Okay, yeah. So you put The Phantom Menace. I put the Clone Wars animated TV series. Where was that on your list? Not TV series, animated film. Sorry.
The Clone Wars movie.
Yeah.
That's way higher up the list.
Okay, so we'll get onto that later for you. The reason I put it so low is because, for me, it's basically just like a 4-story arc put into a film, which is fine, but it just doesn't. I don't know. It's not as enjoyable as watching the actual Clone Wars TV series, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's why I put it at 10. There's not really too much to say about that film, really, is there? I guess we'll get onto it later when it's higher up on your list, and we can talk about why you like it.
Yeah, because it is one of my favourite movies, but
yeah, we'll get onto that later. Then.
Yeah, so we'll get onto that in a minute.
So that was the first 3, right? What did you put for your 9th, 8th, and 7th favourite films?
So I have Force Awakens.
Force Awakens at 7. Is that, yeah.
9th.
Okay.
Awakens at 9.
Yeah, 9th, yeah,
Attack of the Clones at 8. And then The Return of the Jedi.
And then Return of the Jedi.
At 7.
Okay, so my 8th was Rise of Skywalker. Sorry, my 9th was Attack of the Clones. Then my 8th was Rise of Skywalker. And then my 7th was The Force Awakens. So both of us are already getting all of the trilogy films out of the way. And I think that says enough about the trilogy films. None of them have made it into either of our top 6. Sequel trilogy, I should say. My bad. Like, none of them have made it into either of our top 6, so...
Yeah, no.
They're not good. So, so we'll go with you first. What did you put at 9?
Okay. 9 was Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. So why did you put Force Awakens at 9?
I just feel like, again, it falls down to plot and how it was written.
Yeah,
because
I think Force Awakens,
so
they
much
made
hype built around it, but it just didn't
live
up to it.
Yeah, I think
that mainly
Force
just
Awakens
down to
suffered
fandom
because
and how I felt about the movie
I was about
itself.
to say, like, yeah, I think a lot of people were sort of I don't know. It just felt like a massive carbon copy of the Last Hope, the New Hope. Sorry, it just felt like a carbon copy of a New Hope, in my opinion. But at number 9, I put Attack of the Clones, because Attack of the Clones got 6.5 on IMDb, which is quite low, like in terms of Marvel movies, right? But the reason I put it above the other 3, it's below Rise of Skywalker the Force Awakens. But the reason I put it at 9 was because the dialogue is just ridiculously cringy. Like the love scenes are just I can't deal with it.
The reason
the only thing keeping it above Phantom Menace for me is the arena scene with all the Jedi. That's such a sick scene. But
okay.
Yeah.
See, the reason
yeah.
I have it as 8 on my list is
so
because
one spot higher than 9.
it was it's just one spot higher, which is still a decent thing.
Yeah.
I had
Still pretty similar.
major issues with obviously the story and plot, and some of the line delivery. But it was an amazing piece in terms of animation for CGI, because obviously all the clones CGI.
Yeah, that's true.
Every scene with them in CGI, which was an amazing feat to have. It's even as late as it was made, in terms of recency.
Well, yeah, CGI was still fairly new when it was released, so
It was still fairly new.
yeah, no.
And to have an entire practical motion picture made with CGI clones and entities that are entirely new.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I get that.
It deserved a lot more than it was given.
Yeah.
Because everyone hated on
there.
it because of the lack of passion / delivery of lines.
Yeah, I never really got that, because I thought the arena scene was such a cool combination of like imagination and really showed. I don't know. I just thought. I think you're right. It is a little bit underrated.
Epic a movie could be in Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
Because you had.
It did have its weaknesses, which is why it's at the end of the day,
it had its weaknesses. I'm not going to deny that. I will fully say, it does have its weaknesses. But the reason is because as soon as I saw that movie as like a kid, I fell immediately in love with clones.
Yeah.
And just how epic
I
they
fully
could
agree.
be.
That's why.
And that's the one saving grace it has.
Yeah, clones, and it sets up the Clone Wars perfectly. So
that is true.
Which is obviously my personal favourite TV series, not just of Star Wars or animate. It's my favourite animated TV series, and possibly even my favourite TV series in general of all time. So it sets up that perfectly.
Fair enough.
But I can put higher than. So I guess what I should explain why I put Rise of Skywalker above it. So Rise of Skywalker originally for me was down with the Last Jedi at 11. It was at 11, below Phantom Menace, and the reason was because introducing Palpatine raged me so much, because the whole point of the last, not the Last Jedi, what am I doing? The Return of the Jedi, the 6th episode, was that Palpatine was dead, the Empire had fallen, all of that sort of stuff, and so by bringing the Emperor back with no hint as to how or why, like literally in the film they do not explain how he comes back. They just say after the film that he was a clone of Palpatine, right? And it infuriated me when I first saw it. And Rey also went from being able to lift rocks in The Last Jedi to be able to force heal, right? That's something we barely ever see in the Star Wars universe. It's so for me, Rise of Skywalker, in terms of lore, it is low, which is why it's 8, still 8th for me. Still pretty bad. But when I rewatched it without watching The Last Jedi, and just when I accepted that Palpatine was back, it was an enjoyable movie to watch. The end scene with Lando Calrissian coming in with everybody, with all those ships, was a pretty cool scene.
That was a good scene. That was one of the saving graces, because in a lot of the theories about the movie, as soon as they killed off Han Solo, a lot of people went, "Oh no, they've cast Lando in it again.
Yeah,
they're going to kill him off too."
Yeah,
a lot of people had that worry.
And it's because The Force Awakens made Han Solo so uncool by making him just like this reject dad who went off and whatever, and then they killed him without making him cool again. Lando, they just brought him back and they kept him cool and they kept him alive, and that's what they should have done with Han Solo.
Yeah,
but that's what Um, so there's that. In the end, so my 7 was Force Awakens. So I put Force Awakens above The Rise of Skywalker because it has its problems, right? Rey is too overpowered. I think Finn should have been one of the focuses, and he should have trained as a Jedi with Rey. I think they focused way too heavily on Rey as a character. Not to say she's a bad character, she's just very poorly written, right? In my opinion.
Okay.
And so she falls, and so that's where The Force Awakens falls for me. As an opening for a film, for a trilogy, it works quite well. It sets up new characters well. It kills off Han Solo, and as I've said, that's bad. I don't like how they killed off Han Solo. And it had great reference to Darth Vader with Kylo Ren. I thought that was awesome. You know how they had the helmet and all of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the problem, the fall of The Force Awakens was it focused too much on Rey when it should have focused on Finn as the Jedi, or both of them as the Jedi, right? I made a few TikToks about it, but
I
but that's
do
okay.
remember that.
Yeah. So remind me what you put for 9, 8, and 7.
So 9 was Force Awakens, 8 Attack of the Clones, 7 was Return of the Jedi.
Return. So why did you put Return of the Jedi at 7?
I just felt it's not it's not the favourite movie personally. It just doesn't appease me in a way
Doesn't sit
that
well with you.
I like. Yeah.
Yeah. I will give you, it's definitely the worst of the original trilogies. It's still good. I'd still happily sit and watch it, but it is.
Oh yeah, no. I'm a fan of Star
Yeah,
Wars no
it's-
matter what, so I will watch the movie, but I will
Yeah.
nitpick it and be like, they could have written that better.
Yeah.
It's
like
just-
the Ewoks for me were just a bit annoying. Like they didn't.
I
really
mean,
need
the
to add
Ewoks are
the
Ewoks.
into
They're
it.
gonna
Yeah. They're gonna do their own thing and chill. I guess.
be
So-
oddly horrendous.
Yeah. So should we do 6, 5, and 4 now then?
Yeah. So
So,
you go first.
6 for me. Yeah, I'll go first this time. 6 was Solo. 5 was Return of the Jedi. And A New Hope was my number 4.
6 was Solo. 5
Solo.
was
Yeah, so we both
the
put
Clone
Solo
Wars
at
movie,
6. 5 was the Clone Wars movie. Okay.
and 4 was A New Hope.
A New Hope. Okay, so we both put A New Hope at 4. We both put Solo at 6. Right. So we
Yes.
both agreed on that, which is pretty good. So why did you put Solo at 6? I know.
I haven't actually seen it yet, so but from what I have seen of clips and reviews, and just general clips that I've seen, it is a good movie. But
Yeah.
casting and some story parts were apparently, obviously, not as good as they could have been.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have seen the movie. I thought it was a cool
otherwise it'd be a very
little
short
origin.
podcast.
Yeah. I enjoyed it. It was a good origin story for Han Solo. As you said, some of the story plot lines were a bit meh. But
Bit
one of the
iffy.
things I also loved about it is it reintroduced Darth Maul. And to anyone who hasn't seen
Yes.
the Clone Wars, they'd be like, "What? How is he alive?" Right? But Darth Maul is essentially reintroduced as a massive crime lord, like head of all the crime gangs.
It's not just a case of if anyone hasn't seen the Clone Wars. It's a case of if anyone hasn't read comics or looked at lore.
Yes, you're right there.
Because
But,
in the lore, he obviously does continue with the path of becoming a crime lord of the Pike Syndicate,
Yes.
Black Sun,
All of that sort of
and
good stuff.
the Death Watchy ones. Can't remember the names.
Yes.
Crimson something.
No, it is Crimson Sun, I think it is.
Yes.
But no, you're right. But I think having a little cameo for Darth Maul at the end sort of just pushed it to 6 for me, because as I've said before, Darth Maul was my favourite
Yeah.
Sith, and you know, whatever you want to call him. He's not really a Sith because he got kicked out, but in a sense he got left behind. But yeah, you know what I mean.
I know what you mean,
But
I know what you
yeah,
mean.
cool origin story for Han Solo. You know, better than pretty much all the sequel movies. No, it is better than all the sequel movies. I enjoyed it a lot. It doesn't. It follows the lore of Star Wars. It follows the canon. It follows whatever, you know. It's just a good movie.
Follows a lot of the main points of Star Wars.
Yeah, solid top 6. Solid top 6.
Yeah.
But yeah, so moving on to 5, you put the Clone Wars animated TV series. So why did you put that so high?
Animated movie.
So I keep saying TV series. Animated movie, yeah. Why did you put it so high then?
I put it in because it's... Although, again, as is every movie on any list, they all have their flaws.
Mhm.
The Clone Wars movie had more flaws than I would like it to have, obviously. It had the flaws of it being a bit slow in places. Obviously, story could have been better. They could have left out entire sections
Of it.
and it'd be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Such as obviously the Jabba's son, entire subplot of that could have just been scrapped and people would be happy.
Yeah. People would be happy.
Some of the saving graces for me was the Battle of Christosis.
Yeah.
And
that was cool.
introduction of
I'll agree with you there.
Ahsoka Tano.
Yes. Can we just talk about Ahsoka Tano for a quick second? I'm happy you brought her up.
Sure.
She is easily the most... I'm not going to say underrated, that's the wrong word, but unknown to a generic Star Wars fan who maybe hasn't seen the Clone Wars and they've only seen the films, right? Ahsoka Tano is the most unknown but brilliant Jedi, or not Jedi, you know.
Unknown savior.
How unknown savior of the not just the Clone Wars, but of Star Wars. I think you hear her voice in The Rise of Skywalker when she's talking to Rey, so she's definitely there. You know, she's very powerful.
Oh yeah.
In terms of, so, I mean, we could do a whole nother podcast on her for goodness sake, but and we probably will at some point. But yeah, no, for me, Ahsoka Tano was, you're right, definitely a saving grace for the Clone Wars movie. So yeah.
Exactly. And it had,
So yeah.
for me, it mainly introduced key characters alongside Ahsoka, because it introduced Rex.
Yeah.
And
Fair
it
enough.
started up, and it,
Our favourite boy.
well,
Big boy
Yeah.
Rex. Okay.
it basically started
Yeah, we got
off
fives and echoes.
the whole.
I get why you put it at 5. It makes sense. So we'll move on to 4. We both put A New Hope, right?
Yes.
As I'm aware. Reasons I put New Hope there: 8.6 on IMDb, so pretty good rating on IMDb. Set off Star Wars. It's the first film Star Wars ever had. George Lucas, you know, it's always going to be in everybody's sort of, how do I explain this? It's everyone. You can't hate it. Is what I'm trying to say. Like, it's just, it kicked it all off. It's amazing.
Yeah.
The sunset scene on Tatooine is awesome. The soundtrack, the music is sublime. Luke Skywalker is the main focus, as it should have been, and not with
John
multiple
Williams
different
who did
characters like it was in the
score, wasn't it?
sequels. Yes, John. Yeah, very, very good. I think he's awesome. So yeah, I think it's deservedly top 4 finish. I do think the other movies are slightly better, and we'll get onto that in a minute, I guess. But yeah, the only thing for me is the lightsaber duels could have been a little bit better, but it was made in 1978, so you can't really. It was released in 1978.
Yeah, no, there are.
So you can't really judge it on that.
You can't really judge them because of that, though. You know, I agree fully
exactly.
with your points there. That is
It's
the main thing that kicked off Star Wars. That
yeah.
buzzed the world. going, "Oh
Put it
my
like
lord,
this: you can't
space
put it
wizards."
any lower than the top 5. You just can't. If you put it lower than the top 5, you're objectively wrong, and you can call me a gatekeeper for saying that all you want. It's true. It's true. If it's not in your top 5, you're just wrong. So
Let's
whatever.
let's skim over gatekeeping, because that's a different
Okay, yeah,
episode.
we'll
we've
skim
got.
over that. We'll skim over that.
We've got
Top 3
gatekeeping.
then. This is the big ones.
Do you want
This
to
is the big
recap
ones.
first?
Oh yeah, we'll do a recap
So-
before we go any further.
So 12 to
for me-
4 for you.
Yeah, for me, 12 to 4, I had Last Jedi, Phantom Menace, Clone Wars animated movie, Attack of the Clones, Rise of Skywalker, Force Awakens, Solo, Return of the Jedi, and then A New Hope.
Okay. And again, obviously, recap from me: 12 to 4. Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker, Phantom Menace, Force Awakens, Attack of the Clones, Return of the Jedi, Solo, Clone Wars cinematic movie, and A New Hope.
Yeah.
So
So
what was the Fable
if
number
I've-
3 for you?
Okay, yeah. So before we go there, if I get this correct, we've both got Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith, and Empire Strikes Back as our top
Yes.
3 movies, right? We both have.
Those are-
Okay, right.
those are
So
both of our top
3
threes.
for me. We'll go one at a time. 3 for me was Rogue One.
Yeah?
Did you
I've
put
got
Rogue
that
One as
as-
3?
Yeah?
Okay, so Rogue One, I think it's going to be controversial to a lot of people because a lot of people don't like Rogue One, and I can't understand. I can understand why, because some of the acting's a little bit naff. I'm not gonna lie, but it sets up A New Hope, and it shows how they got the
Yeah.
plans and whatnot beautifully. And that Darth Vader scene at the end is hauntingly good. It's unbelievable. Like, seeing him unleash that lightsaber gives me goosebumps thinking about it.
Well,
Insane.
just to also add more flair to the Vader scene, if you think about it, that is not long after he became Vader.
Yes, it's not long after he
Where-
went to Revenge of the Sith, is it?
Even in canon,
So,
he had to relearn his entire fighting style and adopt newly to having cybernetics because he was not used to
yeah.
it.
Yeah. Had to learn to, like, recontrol the Force in a sense, didn't he?
Yeah, he did because he lost, obviously, what was it, like so much of a
He lost the
percentage of his
majority of
body.
his body. He lost all of his
Like
limbs and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, like
so.
a good portion of it. So it would have been very difficult for him to learn any force procedures or anything like that.
Yeah. So both of them agree. Rogue One. I will say some of the downfalls of Rogue One, which is why it's not in the top 2, is I can't remember his name. I keep forgetting his name. But the main male character alongside the main female character. I'm rubbish with names, but.
Remember his
he's-
name?
He's the guy with the accent. That's all I can say. It's not that he did badly as an
Cassian.
actor. I just think he was the wrong Cassian. That was it. Not that he did badly as an actor.
I nearly went
just
Caspian.
Don't think. Cassian.
I nearly went into Narnia.
Almost.
I was like, a
Like I
millisecond
was saying, not a bad actor. I just think he was the wrong actor for the role. And the main bad guy, White Cloak,
off. Yeah.
he was killed off so
Krennic,
poorly.
yeah.
I mean, he just got
Director
shot in the back
Krennic.
and that was it. Director Krennic. He just got shot in the back and that was it. He was dead. It was just a bit. Okay, they could have given him, like, maybe the tower was
Okay.
shot and he fell off, or I don't know, something. But that's why it's not in the top 2 for me.
No, I mean, in terms of story, it set up A New Hope very well.
Mhm.
Because it sets
Yeah,
up the whole
it did.
reason why Vader was pursuing them. It sets up how they got the plans. It sets up a majority of Star Wars
Yeah, it does.
for A New Hope. And to also have the technology to de-age and basically re-put in Carrie Fisher and the actor who
Yes.
played Moff Tarkin.
Yeah. I agree.
Because obviously they
Oh,
were no longer with us at
yeah,
that
you're
time of
right.
making.
Another thing I want to quickly mention about it is having everybody die at the end. Stroke of genius. Like, having them blow up the planet, I thought was.
Well,
You know,
it
it's
ended the whole.
It explains why they
Vader-
weren't in the other films, and I think it was a good way to show that this is the sort of power of the Empire going into New Hope. So you don't look at it and think, really, this is the power of the Empire, and the rebels in the New Hope struggled so much. You think, wow, this is the power of the Empire. I
I
understand
mean,
why the
in
struggles,
terms of
like, why the rebels
showcasing
struggled.
the Empire, it showed they were willing to sacrifice hundreds, if not thousands, of their own soldiers,
Yeah.
and what could possibly, because I'm fairly certain they didn't realise Director Krennic had died.
Yeah,
They were willing to sacrifice.
yeah, they were.
The
guy that built the
director-
Death Star.
Well, no, he didn't
Yeah.
build it. He was in charge
Well,
of it
he was supervised
until
I suppose it's-
Tarkin wanted to fight him. Basically, They were fighting
Yeah.
for control over the Death Star project.
And so Tarkin just
If
killed
you
them.
read the comics,
yeah.
they were both fighting for
Yeah.
it, but they weren't willing to sacrifice the power they had gained already within the Empire, which is
Mhm.
why
Yeah.
they were trying to do it. And Krennic was already having so many issues with the Death Star.
Yeah.
Vader again
I
had to
agree.
come in beforehand.
Be like,
yeah,
stop
he had-
bitching about it.
No, it was because sabotage and
Yeah.
other parts were happening, and it turns out one of the officers making the Death Star, legitimately, Galen Erso, received a Geonosian hive egg from a queen on Geonosis, where Death Star parts were being manufactured. Yeah, Vader had to
okay.
come in and basically wiped out an entire
Fair enough.
Geonosis hive. But it
My
set up a
guy.
lot of comics and Universal things that were quite
Yeah.
key, which
Yeah.
is why I put it at
I
number
agree.
3.
Yeah.
What?
Agree. So,
So what was your
move
number
on to
2?
number 2. I put Revenge of the Sith at number 2, episode 3. What about
Okay. I put Empire Strikes Back.
you? Okay, so we disagreed on the number 1 spot.
Yes.
So why did
This is
you
why
put
I
Empire Strikes Back at number 2 behind Revenge of the Sith?
Again, it's personal preference with what I grew up with and
Yeah.
what I genuinely love. As
Yeah. Okay.
as obviously, as I said before, with I think it was Return of the Jedi, it didn't resonate with me
Yeah.
as a movie.
So, but you still recognise it as like a brilliant movie.
But I recognise it
and
as
stuff like that.
it is a brilliant movie in terms
Yeah,
of
it
Star
wouldn't be
Wars
number 2
lore
otherwise.
and other parts like that. It would not be
Yeah.
number 2 without me having to at least acknowledge it being a good movie.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense. So, before you talk about so the reasons I put Revenge of the Sith second and not Empire Strikes Back is because you're right. I resonate personally a lot more with Revenge of the Sith, and I was tossing and turning between the two. I did not know which one to put in first and second, and I'm still undecided. I could still swap. And the reason is Revenge of the Sith I grew up with, right? It's the number 1 Star Wars movie from growing up. Because we're prequel babies, right? That's what we grew up watching, not the original.
That's what we grew up with.
Right? Yeah. So, and you know, Anakin, the fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan is legendary. It will go down as the best Star Wars fight in history for me. Like straight up. You
Yeah, not
can't
to
get
even
better than
mention
that.
the musical score
Yeah. It's
and obviously bits like that as well.
There's not as much cringy love dialogue as Attack of the Clones.
Well, there's
It's
barely any.
just. Yeah, and watching it back as well, in sync with the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars. I won't spoil any of the Clone Wars episodes in
We're
this
not
episode.
going into that.
Or
'Cause
in this
that's not this podcast.
But rewatching it with those alongside it, mind blowing. Loved it so much. So yeah, Revenge of the Sith with medium stability. The reason I put Empire Strikes Back as number 1, right? In the end, the only reason I put it higher was because I couldn't decide, so I just based it off the IMDb rating. Empire Strikes Back is 8.7, Revenge of the Sith is 7.5. That's the only way I could decipher between the two. I think they're both amazing films.
Yeah.
I mean, Empire Strikes Back. Luke, I am your father.
Again, it does have a lot
Unbelievable.
of classic scenes to do with Star
Oh,
Wars.
it is what made
Just-
Star Wars. I mean, New Hope set up Star Wars. Empire Strikes Back made Star Wars, in my opinion. It's incredible. I loved it.
Okay. That's
Fell
fair.
in love with it.
I can agree with your points.
So
on that.
yeah. So, should we go over the top,
I mean,
top 12? Because that's all the films, isn't it?
I'd like to
all
kind of
done.
also explain why I have Revenge of the Sith at number 1.
Oh yeah, why'd you have Revenge of the Sith at number 1?
Obviously, as I said, it resonated a lot with me in terms of obviously me being a prequel baby.
Yeah, prequel babies.
But it again set up so much excellent stuff to do with the universe of Star Wars. It had
yeah,
it built up the anger and resentment Anakin had that
Yeah.
he must have been feeling for a long time in
Yeah.
order for it to happen the way it did.
Mhm. It makes it, yeah. And I think, yeah, I agree with you there. And you almost sympathise with them, don't you? Because
Well, I will outright say I would prefer to be a Sith over a Jedi any day. So, you know.
I think, yeah, I would say the same, and that's because of Revenge of the Sith for me. Because Revenge of the Sith proves how corrupt the Jedi were as an organisation, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're right. It definitely sets them up. Sets up why the Jedi aren't actually, you know, the be all and end all of
It sets
good
up
bad
why
in the
they
universe.
aren't always just
Yeah,
a shining beacon
I
of
will agree with that.
hope and
Hope and
justice in the
justice.
Republic.
Yeah, especially in
But-
peace as well.
Yeah. But it also had, obviously, major battles within the Clone Wars. And it had, obviously, more clones.
Oh right, yeah,
And
yeah. You're right. It did have much more clones.
And it did link in with the Star Wars games at the time,
It did, yes.
such as the old Star Wars Battlefront 2 game,
Yep.
which was severely underrated for a game at its time.
Yeah,
Everyone
you're right. Oh, do you
decided
know
to give
what,
it
David?
shit,
I
but-
reckon you have convinced me here. I reckon you convinced me that my favourite top 10 is Revenge of the Sith over Empire Strikes Back. Because it is just, it's so good. It's so good. I do like it.
It is a excellent movie.
Mhm.
Plus, it
I agree.
enhanced more of what we already saw in the
Oh,
clones.
Yeah, yeah.
The
I
animation
fully
quality
agree
was
with
a
that.
lot higher in terms of CGI,
Yeah,
and you could tell the passion went into it in terms of story writing.
yeah.
In my
They
opinion,
really, yeah,
They cut
They really
out
went all
the-
out on the story.
they cut out a lot of the BS that Attack of the Clones had and the Phantom Menace
Yeah.
had.
Yeah, and the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones as well. They're prequels as well, and I'm a prequel baby, so they're always going to be personally
Yeah.
some of my top films, even though they've ranked quite low on this list. But Revenge of the Sith is not only yeah, it's as we've already said, prequel babies. It's the best prequel by far. Phenomenal.
Oh yeah, no. By far
Phenomenal
best
film.
prequel movie.
Yeah, and as by the looks of it, for us, the far best Star Wars movie.
Apparently so.
Well, not far best. Empire Strikes Back is pretty close behind.
Yeah,
Um,
again, it is a close hit.
I
but still.
think whether you prefer Revenge of the Sith or Empire Strikes Back very much varies on where you were born and which one you grew up with, doesn't it? It's that.
Yeah, it's
I
all
think
down
that's
to
the deciding
environment
factor between it.
and just what you grew up with.
Yeah. So I think that was our movies. I think we've pretty much finished now, haven't we? With that.
I think so
First
now.
episode of the podcast done. I thought it went quite well. Thought I enjoyed it. Anyone watching on YouTube, leave comments on what podcast you want to see in the future and what you enjoy. Yeah, I've thoroughly enjoyed that. So just to recap the list quickly before we finish, I put Last Jedi, Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, Attack of the Clones, Rise of Skywalker, Force Awakens, Solo: A Star Wars Story 6. Then my top 5 were Return of the Jedi, A New Hope, Rogue One, Revenge of the Sith. Sorry, Empire Strikes Back, and then Revenge of the Sith because I changed my mind.
From 12 to 1, we
What did you
have
get?
Last Jedi, Rise of Skywalker,
Mhm.
Phantom Menace, Force Awakens, Attack of the Clones, Return of the Jedi, Solo, Clone Wars animated movie, A New Hope, Rogue One, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Sith, Revenge of the Sith. Blech.
Revenge of the Sith. Yeah. So I reckon pretty similar list altogether between us.
Well, yeah.
A few
a lot of
differences,
thought-
but you know.
I thought it did go
Good.
into these prior though, which was nice to see.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Overall, we did well, I reckon. Good podcast. We'll end it there. We'll stop wasting you guys' time. Thank you for listening to RadioClone. We'll see
you
you
for
guys in
showing up.
another episode. Bye bye.
Adios.